Now we'll move to the next speaker. We have next speaker, Professor Jameela Jaroodi. She will talk about planning a strategic transition to healthcare 4.0. Let me introduce Dr. or Professor Jameela Jaroodi. Jameela Jaroodi is a professor and coordinator of the software engineering concentration at the Department of Engineering, Robert Marius University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. She received her PhD, MSc, and PhD in computer science from the University of Bahrain Western Michigan University, USA, and the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, USA, respectively. She also holds a master in higher education management from the University of Pittsburgh, USA. She worked as a research assistant professor at Stevens Institute of Technology, USA also. Then as a faculty member at the United Arab Emirates University. Then she was an independent researcher in computer and information technology before joining RMU. Professor Jaroodi is involved in various research areas, including middleware, distributed systems, software engineering, security engineering, cyber physical systems, smart systems, and distributed and cloud computing, in addition to UAVs and wireless sensor networks. Currently, she is working on various research projects, incorporating her collective research experiences into Industry 4.0 and Healthcare 4.0 systems design and architecture. In addition, she is doing research in the areas of software engineering management, and the healthcare system engineering management. Very rich CV, doctor. Okay.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, and you have 20 minutes starting from now.
Thank you so much, Professor Ahmed, for the introduction. And I'd like to thank our keynote speaker for this session, Professor Abdurrahman Al-Ali, because he eloquently and very well paved the way for some of the things I'm talking about today by talking about the Industry 4.0. So my presentation is more from the strategic point of view rather than the technical view for Healthcare 4.0. And I will start by looking at a few questions that this presentation will try to give preliminary answers for, and hopefully guide some of the efforts for future work as well. So we will start by trying to answer the questions: what is Healthcare 4.0? And to actually transform into a Health 4.0 system, we need to answer some questions from the strategic point of view.
Where are we now? Would you like to share your presentation with us? You can share.
Oh, my apologies. I thought it was on.
There is share screen down.
Yes. My apologies. I thought I did click that. Okay, so it seems to be up. So we will be looking at some questions that hopefully by answering them, we can define our transformation. Where are we now? We will ask the question, where do we want to go from here? And also, of course, whenever you think strategically, one of the most important pieces to look into is the resources that we currently have and we can manage to acquire to get there. And how do we get there? And that's basically the four different areas I'll be talking about. So initially, the origin of the word Healthcare 4.0, some call it Health 4.0, sometimes they call it Healthcare Industry 4.0, has basically inherited the Industry 4.0 paradigm. And unlike Industry 4.0, which has successors before it, Healthcare 4.0 is just it, as it just took off as part of the Industry 4.0. The general premise for Healthcare 4.0 is creating a fully connected, highly efficient, cost-effective, and high-quality healthcare services. And I'm talking in terms of connected, not just in terms, for example, of equipment and resources within a single healthcare facility, but eventually, on a holistic view, it should be a global connectivity across the whole world. And the reality now is we do have, as our speaker mentioned, a lot of technologies and infrastructure components that we have in place that kind of help in this process. There is a lot of innovation in the field going on in all around the world with technologies in different areas. The main issue with all of this is a lot of these things are fragmented. They are built independently from each other. They work independently from each other. Connectivity, integration, capability of putting them and getting them to work together has become the most complex part of the whole development process for systems of this type. So, as we said, healthcare technology is practically everywhere. There are healthcare information systems that have been there since possibly computers were there in the 80s, they were in the 90s. They have become a big thing. Now we have IoT, we have a lot of management systems, we have intelligence support systems, and several others that have been developed and deployed in a lot of healthcare areas. In one of the references I was looking at, the author says, healthcare technology development is broken. And in many ways, I do agree with this opinion, because most of the healthcare applications that are being developed and delivered do not have a lot of user input. Corporates and software development companies come up with different software that can do some functionalities in healthcare, and they sell them out. Even custom-built software will have limited input within the vast user community, because usually certain people within IT departments and management will decide on most of the stuff. There's also no interoperability. Systems sometimes within the same organization, within the same set of facilities, may not be able to speak to each other and work together. And currently, we are facing also something that is business-oriented, that the vendor-provider relationship is based on a win-lose situation. And that's for the benefit of the vendors, because what they want to do is they want to make you the product, they want to get you hooked, and you get stuck with them because you cannot move easily from whatever they provide to something else. So in the long run, the user or the organization in healthcare is the loser in this equation. So this is just a quick view of some examples of healthcare technologies and applications that are already available and extensively in use in a lot of organizations and healthcare facilities. One of the most common and most popular thing is the move to EHRs, which is the electronic health records. And I think a lot of countries, including Bahrain and several other in the area, are already using EHRs. We don't have a lot of the paperwork that we used to have, and that allows for really good access to different types of information that is necessary. There are also, for example, medical, there are standards for these EHRs that have been kind of discussed, but again, there are still big differences, and there are several facilities or healthcare organizations that still do not agree on one specific type. There are also mining applications and research applications that are built based on EHRs. that allow healthcare professionals, for example, to gather and use information about specific types of diseases or lifestyle components. There's a lot of work on the semantics, and there's also identifying the applications that try to use these for more benefit for the users and the patients in that field. There are also healthcare applications that have been introduced on a lot of smart devices and smartphones. Currently, I think if anybody has a smartwatch, you see that it can, at the very minimum, record your heart rate and the number of steps that you take. More sophisticated devices now can do an ECG, can do oxygen level measurements. It can even do a blood pressure test with the right pieces of equipment. So all of this has made a lot of healthcare applications available across the board. IoT has also add a lot of different items in there. We have autonomous wireless body area networks that can be used to monitor patients, for example. I think one of the very known examples is the fall detection devices that can detect if someone fell and automatically generate the warning message or a call to the emergency to deal with that. RFID-enabled devices has also allowed a lot of healthcare applications to move faster and in better ways. And of course, as mentioned several times today, cloud computing and fog computing are also big areas where healthcare applications have been enhanced. Now, the enabling technologies, as we said, we have the healthcare information systems, EHR. The general concept of distributed computing has become also the greatest enabler for doing a lot of this work, because if we have that underlying distributed infrastructure, it becomes easier to build on top of it. IoT, Internet of Things, Internet of Health Things, Industrial Internet of Things, these are also areas where a lot of technology can help build a more robust and useful healthcare 4.0 systems. Cyber-physical systems and medical cyber-physical systems, cloud and fog computing, communication technologies have become extremely efficient, and that will make a lot of the applications a lot better. And we also have things like enhanced user experience developments like AR and VR and mixed reality. And that also allows for additional type of applications. Robotics, blockchain, which can help streamline transactions, secure contracts, and also secure patients' record can be used heavily in the area. Intelligent methods, AI, neural networks, machine learning, data mining, predictive analytics, you name it. There's a lot of work and a lot of applications being developed. And of course, there are the advanced software architectures, and that's mostly areas that we work in with my team and research. And there is also the advanced modeling, simulation, and visualization tools that allow either designers to model and simulate how they will be building and developing systems, and also allows organizational stakeholders or management to view what's happening and make better decisions based on a more comprehensive collection of data and analysis. So this is what we have. And as I said a bit earlier, is we have a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of it is disconnected. There are certain applications that are being put together to connect. The use of the cloud is helping a lot, but there's still a big issue there. So
5 minutes more. Thank you.
Thank you. So we want to go to a higher quality healthcare and better healthcare services. And of course, along that line, we need to optimize and automate a lot of the procedures that we have. And that's where our morning keynote speaker, Professor Samir Al-Masri, talked about when he talked about digitalization. And that's the key concept that needs to be really clarified and used as the basis for a strategic move. A lot of the things that are happening now and being used in healthcare as computerized applications is what we call digitization. That means you're literally transferring a manual process into a computerized process. The business model is the same, the process steps are always the same, and that's not enough to become a healthcare 4.0 system. What we need is what is now being referenced as digitalization, and that means you have to examine the whole operational model, look at all the details of how it works, and think creatively. How do you change all of this to actually make good use of the digitization? If you think about a very quick example, if you think about Uber as a company, it basically came into the business of taxis. However, it never owned a taxi. It's a completely flipped model. It has nothing to do with the traditional taxi companies which own taxis and have drivers and it's all of this. But they do the exact same function in a completely different model. Airbnb is very similar as well. And there are so many that got into different businesses with a completely different set of processes that now were controlled and managed through the digitalization of all these processes and the data. So basically, we want to try to make it happen. I looked up several, in our research, we've been looking at different areas. Germany is one of the nations that have been moving and advancing heavily in the healthcare 4.0. And there is also some collaboration between France and Germany in some of the medical initiatives to do that. So the key takeaway is to have a successful transition to healthcare 4.0, we have to have a really good understanding of all the resources, the capabilities, the competencies, the skills of the humans that we have, plus a well-defined strategic plan to move towards it. We need to be able to use as much as we have of the current resources and strategically acquire new resources to build on top of them rather than continuing that tradition of buying and acquiring disconnected components for different tasks. So how to get there? First one of my recommendations is to completely stop making ad hoc acquisitions for healthcare applications. When a hospital or a healthcare ministry or even a whole government decides that we want to move towards healthcare 4.0, just going in and say, okay, I'll buy this smart algorithm for scheduling, I'll buy this item for patient monitoring, that will not help. It has to be a systematic long-term plan that says, okay, let's look at, this is what we have. If we add components within specific direction and make sure that every new piece can be easily and quickly integrated with what we have earlier. And then we can extend those pieces up and out until we actually have a complete healthcare 4.0 system. We have to analyze what we have to be able to do that. We need to create a clear overview of what we want to do and design the master plan to do that. So there are various choices. I'm going to skip through this, but the integration is the key word in the whole view. There are current issues that need to also be addressed, like the current components that are scattered, whether or not we want to replace them or we need to upgrade them or do something with them as enhancing current components, unifying interfaces. And that's the key aspect for all the large-scale healthcare 4.0 systems. You need some form of unifying platform that allows you to get those to work together. And that can be addressed by looking at the master plan, making sure you have the adapters and wrappers for current components. Highly skilled technology development teams is another key for a success of a strategic plan like this. And of course, long-term commitment for all the funding and the resources to actually make a plan like this happen. We just recently published a paper, Health 4.0 on the way to realizing healthcare of the future, where we discuss a lot of the applications and enabling technologies. It's published in IEEE access, so it's open access. Anybody can go in and take a look at it. Recently, we also were talking about the impact of Industry 4.0 healthcare on healthcare system engineering in another. And currently, if you look at the bottom here, Hi4Ware is a platform that we're trying to design and put together to help in unifying interfaces and integrating different services together to make up, to help build a healthcare 4.0 application. And that kind of summarizes what I have, and if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Professor Jameela, for being on time and very interesting presentation. I have here one question from Mr. Zohri Abu Awad. He's saying, what's the possibility of having personal medical record for individuals under the custody of the individual? He is adding, using a blockchain is possible, I guess, and will be very convenient. What do you think?
Okay, personal health records. The debate is still on whether or not the patient should have full custody of that or not. There are a lot of issues that are involved. However, currently, a lot of organizations are moving towards that direction. So allowing ownership for all the personal health records to the patient themselves, but also setting up some type of escrow access component that allows certain authorized persons to access those records. For example, in case of the patient is in a coma, for example, and they need to learn more. And of course, it will, with proper provision, this can be designed in a way that physicians, for example, who are treating the patient have direct access to these records as whenever and wherever they need them as well. And as for blockchain, yes, I appreciate the comment. We have investigated different areas where blockchain is useful in general in Industry 4.0, and the same concepts apply here. You can use it to build contracting infrastructure, for example, between hospitals and medical suppliers, between hospitals and even, for example, food supplies and contractors that do maintenance in the hospitals. So rather than having to go through manual, lengthy negotiations, all of these can be automated through contracting with blockchain. In addition, of course, to the idea of transparency and securing all transactions.
Thank you. I have a question, actually. What is in the heart of the healthcare 4.0, in your opinion? Is it the technology, like robots, smart application, or the mentality of the people?
Healthcare 4.0, just like Industry 4.0, is data-driven. The more data you have, the better off you can be. And to make all of the data available, you need all the enabling technologies that are available. So you cannot isolate one part and say this is the heart of it. There are lots and lots of components that have to be put in play in harmony, just like an orchestra. You cannot really do it with individual components anymore.
Okay, I don't know, Dr. Al-Ali, if you can share the mic just
I can share.
for a moment. Please go on.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctora, for the presentation. It's very informative. Regarding to
Appreciate
the
it.
medical record, I have worked a few years ago on medical record. There are 3 types of medical record: electronics medical record, personal health record, and health record. And for example, personal health record, I can only have access to it as a patient. And then health electronics health record, let's say the local clinic will have it. And the general health record, the ministry has it. So there is a privilege for each of the individual and each, and they are working this. There is a standard. I don't recall it, but I work on it. So yes, and you can embed it now in near future. You will embed a small chip. It has all these things, and it will move with you. It's your digital twin. That's your digital twin.
Yeah.
Exactly. While you are on the move, the GPS there, your health vital signs are attached to you, and wherever you go, it's transmitting, and it's real-time data. Thank you.
Exactly. I appreciate the comment. And as you said, there are different types. And with the current move now, with all the data collection processes that are going on, a lot of are talking also about unifying all these records, anonymizing some of the data for the higher level analysis so that individual patient data are not directly accessible, but at the same time, all the data becomes available for use. Sorry, I can't hear you.
I am saying thank you, Professor Jameela, for being with us in this virtual event, Arab ICT Forum. We hope to see you in future events. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me and for everybody for being here. Thank you.